are you? We are Venom.
Okay, I know that Sony and Disney are being real shady about this, but let's be honest, folks. Spider-Man and Venom will definitely be crossing over at some point in the next few years. I mean, they will likely tease this in either Let There Be Carnage or No Way Home. If this happens, I'm not sure that the relatively soft Tom Holland Spider-Man would stand a chance against the monstrous Tom Hardy Venom. If Venom were a Mortal Kombat character, we all know what his fatality would be. He'd lift up his opponent into the air and then consume them like a cheeseburger. If Eddie and Peter end up fighting, you know this would be Venom's ideal way of dealing with it. From the trailers for the sequel, it's clear that it takes all of Brock's concentration 24/7 to keep Venom from eating bad guys every single day. It's pretty much his full-time job. I doubt that Sony would actually allow their main character to get viciously consumed in a movie, but there are ways around it. It's possible that the symbiote will get obsessed with Spidey, as it was known to do in the comics, and Eddie will have nightmares where Venom is making the webhead his lunch. In the fight, the biggest challenge might be Eddie keeping his symbiote from brutally munching on everyone's favorite friendly neighborhood superhero. I mean, even if they don't make this happen, Venom holding up Spidey with his mouth ready to bite his cranium like an apple would be the ultimate poster for a Venom vs. Spider-Man film. It's possible that Sony may end up reversing the symbiote scenario from the comics. In the original Marvel continuity, Peter goes on a mission to space during the Secret Wars storyline and brings back the symbiote that gives him his iconic black costume. Eventually, he discovers the truth about what his new costume is and gets rid of it. Unfortunately, it drips down and finds itself dropping on his photography rival at the Daily Bugle, Eddie Brock. This turns him into Venom, and the two begin a superpowered rivalry that's still going strong decades later. Well, they already messed up the biggest possibility to adapt this for the big screen. It would have been amazing if Peter stepped on a black puddle of goo in Infinity War that would eventually become the symbiote suit. Instead, the symbiotes were introduced in their own franchise, and Peter Parker left space with only some bad memories of having a moon thrown at him as a reminder. Well, it's very possible that when Peter and Eddie square off, the symbiote will ditch Brock in favor of Parker. This could see him becoming a much grittier version of Spider-Man, who takes risks Peter normally wouldn't consider. This could lead to his untimely end. Perhaps Brock will have to become anti-Venom to separate him from the symbiote and save his life. Just don't have Peter dance in a jazz club this time, please. Rumor has it that Tom Holland won't be the only Spider-Man to grace the big screen soon. Pretty much everyone is convinced that Tobey Maguire will be swinging back into theaters for one more round of wall crawling. It would actually make a lot of sense for Venom to want to end this version of Spider-Man permanently. I mean, the two definitely have beef. Unlike Tom Holland's Peter, the original screen Spidey faced off against the symbiote before. The last time Tobey met a Venom, it did not end well for the Venom. He ended up blowing him into pieces. So yeah, I definitely think Tom Hardy's Venom has a reason to have beef with Tobey. He could decide to take revenge for the slaying of his alternate universe self by taking Tobey out permanently. Or if they really wanted to commit to the multiverse, we could see Topher Grace's Venom team up with the new guy. Just don't have him make that screechy noise. Ugh. There's also the possibility that he could take down Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man, although that seems less likely. I mean, Garfield already comes from the least successful of the three franchises. Having Venom slay him just feels like adding insult to injury. At least let Jamie Foxx's Electro do it. If you can't tell from the trailers for the Venom sequel, Carnage is terrifying. Like, imagine if you slapped a symbiote on the Joker, and you pretty much have a good idea of what kind of threat Carnage is. He was created when Marvel was trying to pivot Venom from villain to anti-hero. They needed to introduce a more intense version of the bad guy symbiote shtick to make Venom seem like a lovable goofball by comparison. Well, they may have committed too hard because Cletus Kasady is legitimately a monster. I mean, Freddy Krueger would look at Kasady's hobbies and think he was going a little too far. While Venom and Carnage are often depicted as mortal enemies, they've actually teamed up to take on the webhead before. Cartoons especially like to portray them as a double act. So it wouldn't be impossible for Tom Holland to find himself caught between two twisted symbiote monsters. Let's just hope Venom is the one who ends up slaying him. Being a late-night snack for Venom is a trip to Disney World compared to how Carnage would finish off Spider-Man. I mean, for whatever reason, Sony will not commit to giving the Venom franchise an R rating it desperately wants, so thankfully I doubt we'll ever see Cletus go maximum Carnage anytime soon. Maximum Carnage? Where's my Sega? There's a lot more than one Venom who likes to trouble the life of Peter Parker. There's one version of the character who has a lot more reason to hate Peter in the MCU than Eddie Brock does. Gargan has been MIA from the MCU, ever since Peter messed up both his criminal career and his face in Homecoming. He told Adrian Toomes that he wanted to get revenge on Spider-Man, but then disappeared like he's the leader from the Incredible Hulk. While he's most known for becoming the Scorpion, there was a brief period of time where he was bonded to the Venom symbiote. If Venom separates Eddie and finds a way onto Gargan, it would be the first thing on Gargan's to-do list to take down Spider-Man. Well, the first thing might be escaping from prison, but slaying Spider-Man would be a definite number 2. For the first time in his entire history as a superhero, fighting supervillains or Team Captain America is no longer his primary problem. Ever since Mysterio doxed him at the end of Far From Home, Peter's entire life has been ruined. Everyone knows he's Spider-Man now, and seems to be destroying the lives of everyone around him. Peter goes to Doctor Strange in No Way Home, but let's be real, there's no way that's gonna work out. Not to throw shade at Stephen Strange, but he tends to make more of a mess anytime he wants to clean things up. So it's very possible that Peter could still have an identity crisis after the credits roll on No Way Home. Venom could end up being a perfect solution. It's possible that Venom could seemingly slay Spider-Man in a big final battle, making it appear like Spider-Man is no more even though Peter Parker is still alive. This could allow Pete to retire from web-slinging with MJ, while someone else, Miles Morales, takes up the Spider-Man title. Donald Glover did confirm that he exists. The Venom franchise has its own Thanos that I bet you anything the next Venom movie starts setting up. That would be the symbiote god Knull. He's been alive since the dawn of the universe and wants to turn the entire universe into nothing but darkness, more than a dark elf from Thor 2. He has the ability to unite all of the symbiotes into a giant hive mind that he controls. So it's almost certain that Knull will be taking over Venom at some point. If so, Venom could end up slaying Peter under Knull's control. All I want for them is to cast Jason Isaacs as Knull. How is that man not a villain in the MCU yet?
Remember, with great power comes great responsibility.
If there's one thing Peter Parker is known for, it's self-sacrifice. Ever since he lost his Uncle Ben, Peter has felt the weight of that guilt hanging over his neck. So anytime Peter feels like he has the power to save pretty much anyone, he has to take that chance, no matter who it is. We've seen Tom Holland's Peter sacrifice himself more than any other Spider-Man ever has. In Homecoming, he literally risked his life to save Adrian Toomes, even though Vulture dropped a building on him a few hours earlier. That's some hardcore selflessness right there, even by Spidey standards. So if Venom and Spider-Man do team up on Carnage, Knull, the Sinister Six, or any other threats really, it's quite possible that Venom will find himself on the losing end of that conflict. Just before it looks like curtains for Eddie Brock and his symbiote roommate, Peter could swing in and sacrifice his life to save Eddie's. Brock ends up having a son in the comics, so it'd be fitting if he named the kid Peter, after the hero who saved his life. If Venom does make it to the MCU, does that mean he's fair game for What If? Could we see him take on Captain America or Iron Man? Yeah, I certainly hope so. So someone call Topher Grace, let the man redeem himself.